In the embryonic days of Chinese game development, built around the PC, Softstar towered above all, and doubtless we'll be devoting a lot to that story, but there's a second side to the equation through the mid-90s and well into the early 2000s. See, before the rise and fall of internet cafes, and still far more relevant now than you might know, the arcade existed as a communal space, the principal site of gaming, memory, and experience, especially in China with home gaming out of the reach to many. And one developer took it upon themselves to compete with the Japanese behemoths and produce some of the finest beat-them-up and fighting games of the era. So today on Happy Gaming House, IGS, the only Chinese arcade company to produce their own arcade system board. A company that has found a second and dare I say third life in a punishing industry to remain quietly ubiquitous today. With more than 1,000 employees and 43 million US in capital. First, however, spare me the now near constant existential dread of screaming into the void and leave a comment, or make those data graphs look pretty with a like or subscribe.
IGS is certainly not only pumping out sort of arcade trash, but they do have some more meaty titles in the racing space.
Yisheng Electronics, or International Game System Company Limited, IGS for short, was incorporated in November 1989 in New Taipei City, Taiwan. And lest you be snared by a rookie mistake, which at no point I was, this is not the same IGS as Japan's Information Global Service, also IGS and also active in video games in the early 90s. According to their own company history, IGS saw a huge business opportunity in the arcade game space, but also the near monopolistic stranglehold Japan held. To truly succeed, they would have to rely on their own brand, their own R&D, and develop their own key technologies. The mission on their website for that era reads, to become the most well-known game development company in the Chinese region. What this bold statement of intent amounted to in the early years was rather less glorified. This phase is brushed over in the company's own account and generally not that well documented, as their first batch of arcade cabinets were generic and in the unrespected casino, video game, poker, puzzle and mahjong tile categories. Luckily, arcadehistory.com contains a mostly exhaustive timeline, and from there I was able to chase down rarer releases and construct a better picture of things. What emerged, to me at least, was a clear delineation into 4 distinct eras. The foundational era through to 1996, which leads to their golden era of rich 2D arcade classics with the launch of their Polygame Master or PGM arcade system hardware. This era closes out with 2003's The Road to the Sword, the last original non-sequel/enhanced edition 2D IGS developed game in the classic mold, as they move away from 2D and the PGM2 and PGM3 fail to take off. From here we enter the Silver Age as IGS expands into the mobile and online gaming, finding success in Konami-style dance and music then racing games. I dub 2010 onwards the current era of IGS. A lot of their key franchises have been established, the development of new games slows down as IGS settles into their role as elder states company, churning out redemption games and more child-friendly fare as the arcade scene in the mainland transitions to a younger age bracket. Looking at this graphic of IGS releases, there's an approximation of a normal distribution here, ramping up then tailing off in recent years with an outlier peak in 2009. We don't have the precise dates for 40 plus titles, but I think it's a decent visual summary to orientate ourselves. Where is there to start then but the beginning? Foundational era, 1989 to 1996. As I've said, IGS's first crop of games were all of the rather dubious variety. Champion Poker, the slots game Happy Jackie, the number-based puzzler IQ Block, which managed to contain the typo insert, coin, and the column-style Grand Tour, the type of game that rewards you with pictures of beautiful women. 6-button fighter Alien Challenge seemed to be their first significant investment, testified by the intro screen's declaration that Alien Challenge is a great production of IGS, with millions expenses and thousands working hours. It's a bonkers lineup including a werewolf, clown, American footballer, ninja, and the titular Chinese folk hero, Huang Fei Hong, famously portrayed by Jet Li in the Once Upon a Time in China series. can see that IGS is experimenting, because around this they make a play for the US with the Lethal Enforcers-esque shooter Lord of Gun. This US exclusive would be IGS's only 2D shooter. So now we enter the golden age of IGS. And luckily in 2023 it's easier than ever to get your hands on these 2D classics with the IGS Arcade Classics Collection. And the problem with these emulations is the sound's a little buggy, and initially at least you couldn't have the original 4:3 aspect ratio, which they've patched up thankfully, but I think we can do one better, and that's this arcade cabinet over here. Now you might notice this doesn't say IGS, this says Neo Geo MVS. See what IGS did, and imitation is the best form of flattery, they basically wanted to make their own Neo Geo MVS. So what they did is they created, and I'm going to open this up and show you. In 1997, they created their own, and this is it here, and I'm going to turn this off. This is their IGS PGM or Polygame Master. So what this is an arcade-based system. Now this is the original Geo stuff that's lots in here, as you can see, and I've got some IGS carts here. Okay, so here we have the S and K cartridges and your IGS cartridges. As you can see, they look very similar. Now your IGS PGM, that is running a Motorola 68000, which is a very common CPU in a lot of things at the time. And since 1985, there has been a standard for arcade wiring. That's the JAMMA standard. So if I pull this connector off, right there, here is your JAMMA connector, which is the same one your Neo Geo has here. The same connector here, the JAMMA. So you can plug your PGM into an MVS and still play the games. Now you can pick these things up if you're in China on a second-hand platform like Xianyu for a couple of hundred kwai. Otherwise, Tim ships his worldwide, so link below. So what we're gonna do in a minute, we're gonna fire it up and we're gonna have a play. Pretty straightforward. Popping that in. Oh, make sure. There we go, you hear a click. Then you put on your JAMMA connector. Now, if you don't have access to an arcade board, that's okay. You can get what's called a super gun. And that is basically, it's gonna have a connector like this, and it's gonna let you basically connect up to a standard TV or something like that. And you can also get some arcade sticks and hook it up. So if you don't have a whole cabinet set up, that's fine. So it's just a simple matter of flicking the switch, and we're in business. There we go, Polygame Master IGS. Load up screen. So we're playing Knights of Valor, the original Knights of Valor. Come on, you. Oh, there we are. 1999's Knights of Valor is a series of 4-player beat-em-up games themed around the romance of the Three Kingdoms, but it brings in magical elements too, with levels based on key events in the novel such as the Yellow Turban, Uprising, and Battle of Red Cliffs. Oh, there's a little boss, hey? Okay, I'm fighting for you! Oh, now I'm going you! Yeah, that's my favorite. Okay. Clearly here I'm dying here. Oh! Okay, I was pretty close to beating her. I only had to use one more continue there. Knights of Valor 2 came in 2000 and Knights of Valor 3 in 2011. B-Storm, Dudonpachi 2, Fengbao. Dudonpachi 2 B-Storm is a vertical scrolling bullet hell shoot 'em up. Cave developed the first Dudonpachi game, which was released in 1997. The game was a success, and IGS obtained the license to Dudonpachi name for a new game on their Polygame Master hardware. Cave was an important third-party developer for IGS and developed several games for PGM and PGM2 hardware on dedicated PCP boards instead of cartridges, though people have dumped the ROMs to make cheaper cartridge versions available. Oriental Legend series, Shiyou Shi-Zhuan. 1997's Oriental Legend was IGS's first beat-em-up inspired by Journey to the West prior to Knights of Valor. Gameplay-wise, it is in the mold of Capcom's Dungeons & Dragons arcade games like Tower of Doom. There are 5 playable characters. There was an enhanced version, Oriental Legend Super, in 1998, and a sequel would not arrive until 2007. The Killing Blade, Aojian Kuangdao. 1998's The Killing Blade is a 2D historical fantasy weapon-based fighting game featuring 12 characters to choose from, each armed with a different weapon. Another game set in ancient China. This time the emperor has been overthrown by rebels. You take on the role of one of those rebels, each with their own reason for siding with the rebellion. Its weapon-based gameplay is similar to the Samurai Showdown games by SNK. Martial Masters, Xingyi Chuan, a 1999 IGS fighting game, again set, yes, in ancient China. This one taking its cues from Hong Kong martial arts flicks like Once Upon a Time in China, Drunken Master, and Operation Scorpio. The game features 12 fighters with their own unique fighting styles and special moves. The story is about defeating the White Lotus sect. The game features a combo counter, pressure moves, roll recovery, and other ideas adopted from Street Fighter 3 and the like. Demon Front, Mo Yu Jianxian. Demon Front is a straight-up Metal Slug clone run-and-gun arcade game, but instead of vehicles you have a pet, which adds a special twist. There are only 3 buttons: shoot, jump, and shield. Holding shoot will allow you to charge up your pet, which you can release for a powerful attack. The shield button has your pet taking on the role as a shield up to a certain amount of damage, and attacks boost your shield power. There are 5 stages, each broken down into 3 or 4 segments, each with their own mini boss. The Road of the Sword, Shenjian Fangyun, also known as The Gladiator, is a 2003 wuxia themed 4-player beat-em-up, a tale of vengeance set in the Song Dynasty with warring clans, the Shangguan sect, and an evil cult. There was a novelization and spin-off series too. Silver Age, 2004 to 2010. Moving on from the 2D glory days, arcades were changing by the mid-2000s with Konami and their Benami rhythm games leading the charge. DDR fever had hit. IGS, never one to shy from a trend, leapt in with both feet, starting with their Beat Mania style DJ Rock Fever series in 2000. Led by the IGS sound team known as Ultra Wave Band. Their first stab at DDR was 2000's Crazy Dancing, which also got a PC version. The following year came Fighting Club with added punching pads for a more combat-type experience. Rounding out the lineup was their answer to Drum Mania, the Drum King / Drum Master series, with games like Jungle Drummer and Percussion Kids aimed at a younger audience. This is when IGS also expanded into the online space. Games began to include online play and rankings. And in 2004, their casual gaming portal, IGS Playground or IQ Leyuan, entered the picture, harking back to their card and mahjong games from their earliest years. Current era, 2010 until present. Step into your average arcade in China, and along with Wallup and Eunice, the IGS logo is sure to be there, plastered over all sorts of games. Games that typically don't elicit prestige, that maybe won't be formative or the target of nostalgia and ongoing critical discussion as its golden age greats are. Knights of Valor, Oriental Legend, and Martial Masters stood toe-to-toe with the very best of Capcom and SNK. IGS always made clones, but that's how genres are born and evolve. They brought refinements too, a Chinese sensibility that was missing, a freshness of perspective that is still needed today. Even through to Hero of Robots and Dance Bass, there was spirit, but the polish or else an animating creative force seems to have left. Its racing games lack the sense of identity and polish of Initial D or Wangan Midnight, but maybe I'm wrong to turn up my nose here. They've kept at it for 30 years. The Classics collection on Switch is a testament to that. Maybe their new games do for 6-year-olds what their old ones did for 11-year-olds. It's not my place, but I'm glad arcades persist. That in some ways, against expectations, they thrive. There are quality music games, trading card games, and races that have kept me coming back. And whatever else, IGS will continue to be part of my lifelong love affair with coin-op. So kudos to you, on behalf of memories new and old. I'm Jesse, and that was Happy Gaming House.